Hey there. Welcome to Pink Flags. We're back and it's Tuesday.
What's going on, people? How's everything?
Good. How is everything? Mrs. Williams should be joining us shortly. She's having some technical difficulties and we have a wonderful guest tonight who will be joining us at any minute. Um Her name is Leana Pardo. And
Leana Pardo.
works with women who have left domestic violence situations and are in search of housing. And she is a really dear friend of mine. We've been friends for a long time. And I'm going to give you a little bit of background on her. She is a New York City based nonprofit program director, and she works with people who are survivors of intimate partner violence that are facing homelessness. And she has a bachelor's in business administration and a master's in public policy. She's also a survivor of both DV and sexual assault. And that makes her my sister in more than one way. And she has been an advocate, a tireless advocate against gender violence and sexual violence of any form. And when she's not working with these people, she's living her best life with her two amazing children. And she is an avid yogi and practices yoga at Slow Flow Yoga in the Bronx and
hmm
requested the shout out. I'm going to introduce her without further ado. And here we go. Welcome.
Welcome, welcome.
Hi,
Hello.
how are you guys? It's so good hearing your voice. I haven't heard your voice in so long.
I know I haven't heard your voice.
I
I
miss it.
you. Thank you. And you look, as usual, you look glorious.
Oh, thank you. I got off at work and
Thank
I'm
you.
here.
And let's bring in Mrs. Williams. We got a full house tonight. And there you go.
Hello, how are you?
Sean and Wise, this is Leana. And let's start talking about how
Sean's mic is off.
she's having a lot of technical difficulties today, which
Yes.
does happen. Not a lot, but let's.
She'll pop in.
Uh, what is, in your estimation, what's a pink flag for abuse? What's one of those things that you see on like the first or second date that might stop you?
For me, question for me?
Yeah, really for
Yeah.
you, but like, how would it pertain to anybody?
So, it's funny you said that because I was actually talking to one of my friends today about the idea of like pink flag, and she was like jokingly throwing me some and I was throwing her some back because it's like, you see this pink flag and then now 7 years later, 10 years later, we could be like, okay, that was a flag that we ignored. So I was thinking today about, I've been in relationships where an ex of theirs has said there was domestic violence or throwing objects or crashing her car or something like really fishy, and I completely ignored it. Or like a girl saying, I remember I was friends with him and he slapped her in the face or something like that, and I completely just ignored it, like standing up for my man. Like,
Right,
oh
like
no,
it's
that
not happening
he,
to me, so it's not happening.
right. And like, oh no, someone's trying to like throw slander, and I know that does happen, but I've seen that like when I heard a bad story, it ended up being true.
Right.
And then just like, I could think of like my longest relationship that was extremely abusive. I'll never forget, like 6 months in, he got upset about like a sports bet or something, and he like started screaming at me, foaming at the mouth, and just like his eyes looked black, and he was just screaming at me, calling me all different types of names. And I was like, what is wrong with you? And then to me, it didn't sit right with me, but I also just ignored it. I was like, okay, he almost got physical with me over a sports bet, over losing a sports bet and blaming it on me for talking during the game. And then it was a big deal and I kind of just let it go.
Oh, now your voice controls the New York Yankees?
Right, right.
Damn, girl, you are powerful.
Right. Exactly. I made the team lose. It was a big deal.
But see that right there is deep, because a lot of situations with couples, when things like that happen, like you said, you let certain things slide, you look past it, and then down the road you're like, oh wow, I saw the signs all along, but I just looked past it, and I wasn't worried about it. So that's where things get a little crazy, and you got to go with your intuition. When you feel things aren't right, when you're dealing with someone and you see something's off tilt, automatically you have to step back and really think about what you're dealing with, and can you deal with that person.
Right. It's like what you said, your intuition. So there are, I've ignored my intuition for like 30 years, basically. So when I felt like something was off, I just kept powering through because I would internalize it as something I did wrong instead of putting the blame on who actually was to blame. Like in the sports betting situation, you're screaming at me, mind you, it was in front of like 20 people, and you're
Wow.
foaming at the mouth, spitting while you're screaming in my face. And I just was standing there like, what the fuck is going on right now? And it's like intuition wise, I was like, this is off. But I just kept powering through thinking that, it was just that one time. So I let it go.
Right. And sometimes we confuse love and caring and being understanding, and allow a person to abuse you. Like, no, a person should never be allowed to abuse you, scream at you, disrespect you on any level. So once you see that, like I said, you have to step back, and you have to get yourself together and understand, like, nah, this isn't for me. This is something's not right. And that's what a lot of people don't take the time to do.
Right.
So
One of
I
the
think it's,
yeah,
go ahead.
one of the other things that I always saw as a pink flag, and a lot of people don't. A lot of people are like, "Oh, it's kind of sexy," is jealousy.
Hmm.
Like, "Oh, but you're mine." No, I'm mine. I belong to me.
mhm.
But a lot of
Yeah.
times women interpret, especially younger women, I think it gets better as you get older, but
Mm.
honestly, not entirely. Um, a lot of times it's like, oh, well, he's all about me. No, mm-mm, that's not the case. He's all about ownership.
Controlling you.
Right.
Right.
You have no more value than any other large object. Like the weight of you in his world is probably less than his vehicle.
Right. It's funny you said that because when I've done like domestic violence program in with youth,
Hmm.
um, I've noticed that like teenagers tend to think the boyfriend that's that won't let their girlfriend walk in the hallway without them standing there, or like that make sure that they're following their girlfriend after the bell, or being territorial is cute. It's gassing. It's like, oh, he really, really cares about me. Oh, I want a relationship like that. And this is literally what I've heard. And then when, you peel away the layers, this kid is so insecure and just doesn't want his girlfriend walking down the hallway because he's so insecure, he's trying to control her. But you're right, it's like younger generations. I think like by the time you get older, women are kind of just like, holy shit, this isn't gassing at all. This is crazy. But
because
when
it
you're
moves.
younger,
Yeah, it
yeah,
moves into something different when you're older. When you're younger, you don't have the infrastructure of like a larger life in place. Pretty much like your boyfriend and your friends are
right,
are it, because ordinary 16-year-olds like don't bother much with their parents, and you have your clique and your boyfriend. And there's girls that would never give up their clique for a boy, and then there's girls that would give up their clique for any boy that comes by. And
right.
those are probably the ones that will say like, oh, but he really loves me because he's constantly like on top of me. But then when you're
Right.
older and you have that infrastructure of life, like your own place, a kid, a car, um, a family with like nieces and nephews, and then
I'm sorry.
that's okay.
She wants to join.
I'm sure.
But see, it's funny. It's funny because myself and a friend had a conversation about that basically yesterday, and we were talking about jealousy and stuff like that. And I asked, is it jealousy sometimes, or is it sometimes a person is just questioning certain things? It's a difference where you're trying to control a person and say you have to do A, B, C, and D, or you're sitting there talking to a person saying, hold up, I don't think something's right with this. This is looking a little shaky. That person that's supposed to be your friend, they're acting a little shady towards you. Watch out for yourself. So all the time, it isn't jealousy. Sometimes it's, I believe, from a man or woman, you're looking out for the next person. But if you're trying to control that person, if you're trying to tell that person what they have to do and how they have to do things, then that's when it goes into jealousy to me.
Yeah, and I think it's also like everybody's jealous. It's just like human nature to be like, oh, why were you talking to that girl for so long? Like, or why are you talking to your ex if you're still communicating with an ex or something like that? I think that's all like pretty healthy. I think it gets unhealthy, like you said, when it crosses like certain boundaries of control. And, I think it's human nature to, be a little jealous of, someone you're seeing if they're giving other people attention. But it's another thing really acting on it and making it like, okay, you have to check in with me as soon as you get home. I once had this one, I mean, I have an array of abusive relationships. Like, I could just go and pick one out. Like, oh, stalking. Yep, checked off. I got that. I dated this one guy who was a stalker, like a real life stalker. So I remember one time he showed up to my house when my kids were there. And that's something that I never allow. Like, no one's really around allowed to be around my kids. Like, no man that I've ever dated, because I don't trust myself, because I'm, just they don't meet my children. So he knew where I lived and he picked me up for dates before, and he came to my house one day because I didn't have my phone on me. It was in my house and I was gardening in my patio, and he just showed up. And I remember being so pissed off. I was like, my children are home. I'm not alone this weekend. why are you here? And he was like, well, you didn't pick up your phone. And when I told my friends, they thought it was endearing. And I thought it was endearing too, right?
But it wasn't.
No. So let's fast forward like 3 months. One time he called me 78 times in one
Wow.
day. That was like, and when I tried to end it, he showed up at my house on Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving. Like, that's like, you don't even know my family. You don't even know my children. We've only been dating for 3 months. What are you doing on Thanksgiving showing up to my house? So it's like, it started with like an endearing Romeo type of big gesture of like, I'm bringing you and your kids pizza. I was worried about you. You didn't pick up your phone. And 3 months later, the guy was fucking nuts. And like, I had to threaten him with police and everything just to leave me alone.
Yeah, it's like some number of phone calls is like this anniversary is like a wooden box. Like on the 75th phone call, you get an automatic restraining order.
Right.
I think 78 phone calls is a little much. I think 10 or 15 is a little much.
Yeah.
Once you get past that, like it's time to call the precinct. Like
Right.
it's something definitely wrong with that. And
Yeah.
like I said, that's not jealousy. That right there is controlling. That
Mhm.
right there is he wants to show you like he's the man. You're gonna do what I want you to do, no matter what you feel, no matter what you say. And when you're in a situation like that, that's
Yeah.
even past pink flags. That's super red flags. That's
That's a
like black
super
flag
red.
right there.
Yeah. But like you were saying, when he showed up the first time saying like, "Oh, I was worried about you." That's a pink flag. Why are
Right.
you worried about me? We have no communication
Connection. Yeah.
place. You're somebody that I've had a couple of dinners with,
Right.
maybe, rounded third, whatever.
Right. It was very casual dinner
Yeah.
and drinks, and you're showing up to my house. And, another thing was like he knew like the policy of like when I have my children every other weekend, I don't do anything. I stay with my kids. So,
Mhm.
like, why would you think it'd be okay to show up there? You know?
Because he probably thought that at that point you would break policy.
Mhm.
Just for him.
That's exactly what you said. Yeah, exactly what you said. And I just wanna, like, say, I'm laughing not because I think that this subject is, like, funny, it's just that I have learned to find some bits of humor in the things that I've
Oh,
experienced only because or else what do you want me to cry? So, like, some people are like, "You
oh,
take it
that's
so
the whole
lightly."
point of this podcast.
Right, okay.
A lot of these experiences that we've had, like I definitely make fun of everything, and a lot of it becomes part of my stand-up routine. Like bad first dates is, I mean, I wouldn't have a comedy career if it wasn't for bad first dates.
Right.
I mean, for real. But like I'm the biggest proponent of taking like your what would ordinarily be somebody else's pain and misfortune and using it to empower others.
Mhm.
And we've had these conversations drunk, sober, wearing pajamas, at Hilton's and Marriott's, and mix and match accordingly
Right.
in academic and non-academic settings. Yeah. And it's like, what are you gonna do? Are you gonna sit there? Because then you've given them permission to do what they set out to do. Even if they don't remain in a relationship with you, you are so permanently damaged
Right.
that they got what they were looking for, which was
Right.
hurt you if they can't have you. So the best thing that you can do is get up, put your big girl shoes on, and march on. And
Mhm.
maybe you find love, and maybe you don't. Maybe you don't need it. Maybe
Yeah.
self is enough. Because I find that the older you are, and Wise is definitely a big proponent. Like you just become the love of your own life, like the hero of
Absolutely.
your own story.
That's right. If you can't love yourself, if you can't respect yourself, no one else can love and respect you. And the thing
Mhm.
is, a person shouldn't be able to bully you into loving them. That's
Mhm.
not love. So that's narcissistic thinking. People feel they could do with you and treat you whatever way they want. And like I said, when you're so accommodating of that treatment, you just give them permission to continue to treat you with disrespect and to treat you badly. So I tell people, you don't give people 3 and 4 chances to treat you bad. You don't give people, like Barbara tell you, I'm one of the people, I'm like, people know exactly what they're doing. So the first time I might be like, all right, that might be a slip up. The second time I'm like, hold up, nah, we're not doing this. And it's not going to be a third time because people treat you the way you allowed them to treat you. So
Right.
if you're in a situation and you're dating a person, and like you said, if I'm dating someone and I'm worried about them, I'm calling them on the phone. If I can't get through on the phone, especially if the relationship is pretty new. I'm waiting around. I'm waiting around. I might try you the next day now, and if that don't work, then I might be a little. But if you're dating 2 or 3 months and a person don't answer the phone, you can't just show up to a person's house.
Right. Absolutely.
There's a problem with that. So, like I said, that goes deep into controlling, into people trying to establish their dominance over one another, and you can't allow that.
Right. Absolutely. And like to what you said about loving yourself, when you start healing and actually surround yourself with people that deserve you, it's like if there's, it's like I don't know how to explain it. It's not this really like crazy abusive attachment anymore to the person. It's more just like I'm good on my own. I'm good with or without you because I'm happy with or without you. So if there is a boundary that's crossed or a line of disrespect, or even just like it's not working out, it's easier to almost let go of it because you do have so much self-respect for yourself and you do just like love yourself on your own. You keep yourself busy, you keep yourself happy. It's not attached to anybody.
Yeah,
Right.
and it does, and that actually kind of makes it hard for you to remain in a relationship with someone who's not treating you as well as you would treat yourself in the same circumstances. It's like if I was by myself, would I be doing this? If I was by myself, would I be eating that or drinking that? Like this, when I go to dinner with this person, they don't respect my food boundaries. And it's like when open, you were open to taking any old shit from any old buddy. If somebody was like, oh, here's something with 3 things that you're not, that it's recommended that you don't eat, you would just like go ahead and eat the pizza
Right.
instead of saying, and it does seem small, but that's why it's like a pink thing.
Mhm.
It's like, now
Absolutely.
I'm
See,
sorry.
people also get it twisted
Yeah.
when they like people perceive just because a person's not physically um, putting
Harming.
their hands on you and things like that, it's not abuse. If
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be physical abuse, it could be mental abuse, it could be financial abuse. You could be abused in so many different ways. The way a person speaks to you, like
Hmm.
I have never been a person that was into arguing with someone out in the street. If we have a disagreement and we're in the house, all right, we could disagree or whatever. But when you get to the screaming and yelling and disrespecting out in the street, that's another pink flag. Like once you start with it, you can't allow people to do things like that because they think it's all right. So everything comes down to you have to nip it in the bud quickly. You can't just wait and be like, oh well, they're passionate. No, you're not passionate. Like you're a
You're
jerk. And
stupid. You're
right.
too passionate.
It's true.
Yeah,
It's true.
and that's kind of the point. It's um, that's where it's like it's the little things that you have to pick up on,
Hmm.
and I'm not going to eat pizza because it's the path of least resistance. And maybe that's, I found out recently on a dating site what somebody else's pink flag was. And I was a deal breaker. There was a gentleman on a dating site, and I was like, "Hey, how you doing? What do you do?" He's like, "I'm a baker." And I was like, "I can't have grain." Oh, bye.
It meant something to him. Yeah,
Yeah, it's like,
absolutely.
what's the point? If the thing that he's like, I'm a baker. I work for X, and I like own part of this bakery on Long Island, and I'm like this, and I'm like that, and it's like, oh, well, I have dietary restrictions, so the thing that you do and you love is not something that I can ever share with you. And he was like, bye, and hmm, that's a pink flag, and he did the totally right thing instead of trying to make himself happy because other less important connections meant something. Or I like the way she looks and I'm gonna take the path to least resistance. No, that's not ever good for you.
Yeah, and there's like I've just understood that people don't really change. And maybe I'm just a pessimist about this, but they don't change.
Yeah.
So, like years ago you would hear like if they cheat once, they're going to do it again. If they hit you once, they're going to do it again. And it's like, cheating I think is different, but I don't know. But with hitting and physical abuse, anybody that's hit me once does do it again. So like it's not just like it requires serious therapy, serious change talk. Like you have to change your old lifestyle if you thought it was okay to hit women, and then, like you really have to do a lot of change work. And the people that I was with, after they would say that they were going to change, maybe like 2 days later, they forgot about that whole conversation and just went back to who they were. So it's like I didn't see any change. And like without that drastic behavioral change, they're going to do it again.
Yeah, and why do you want to take that chance?
Right. Don't take the chance because you're so much better than that. There's so many people out there that won't do that to you. But I think it also has to do with a low self-worth. I've always had a very low self-esteem since childhood, very low self-esteem. So it's like it took my last assault was 3 years ago. So it took like maybe like a year or two of like serious deep therapy and a lot of lifestyle changes for me to finally be healthy and have a good self-worth and have a good self-esteem. And now when I have I have self-worth, and it's like I would never allow someone to mistreat me right now because I just think I'm too good for that. You're not going to do that to me. But it took me, come on, like 35 years of a really low self-esteem. And I think that's what it has to do with too. You don't really think that you're worthy enough of being treated well.
Oh no, and we've had this conversation on numerous occasions
Mm-hmm.
that I can't even imagine, not on my last moment, that you don't see yourself as being remarkable in every way.
Thank you.
And but I know what it's like to have somebody say that to me.
Mm-hmm.
How could you ever? Because you're spectacular. And then you're like, but I'm not. Did you see this tooth? This tooth is like, I mean, it's terrifying.
Stop.
And it's like,
Yeah.
that's the dumbest shit.
Mm-hmm.
I know it rationally, and I'm going to say it to you. And I can
Give
think
me
of
1 second.
a dozen other women that I
Can you
would
please
say
walk her again, Elon?
Right. But the thing is, everybody, I believe every person has their insecurities. And a person, an abuser feeds off your insecurities. And they use your insecurities against you. So
they use a
like,
whole arsenal. They
right, right,
use
Sorry.
insecurities. They feed off your dreams. They
Yeah.
ask
right.
you what really matters to you. And it's like, that's what they go that's what they go in for. And that's like
Mm-hmm.
one of the bigger pink flags is the whole love bombing. Because that sets you up. Like, they want to know you now. They want to love you now, right now. Like 3 weeks in, they're hanging up the phone. Love you, babe.
Right.
And you're like, love me, babe? Because you're stupid.
Right. And I think I think it's that you have a low self-worth, and then all of a sudden someone comes around and is buying you everything you want, sending you gifts, sending you flowers, sending you chocolates, like wooing your family, wooing your friends. Like, oh my God, he's so great. All of your friends are like, oh, he's so great. And then 2 months in, something happens, like verbal abuse or any type of abuse, harassment, physical abuse. And then you're kind of in shock, like, what the fuck just happened? Because they were just so good to me. They were the best boyfriend in the world for these 2 months. This can't be him. And
See,
then, go ahead.
go ahead.
No, it's just, it's like a mind fuck.
Right.
Oh,
That's what I'm saying.
yeah.
Yes. Because people, like I was, like I said, I had a conversation with a friend, and I was saying people will tell you anything they think you want to hear so they could be accepted and brought into your circle. And then when they feel comfortable enough, they just let it go. And it's men and women that will wait around you. Like if a guy wants you, he'll wait around you a year longer until he gets what he wants, until he feels where he needs to be. Then he'll show his true self. So you gotta wait until you find that person's true self and they show who they really are, because people are very manipulative, and they'll do whatever they have to do to get in where they need to be. So you have to be on guard, and if you're talking to someone I'm sorry. After like the third date, you shouldn't be telling me, "Oh, I'm so in love with you."
Hmm.
I think you could really like someone. You could click with someone, and you could be like, "Yo, I could see myself hanging out with this person, getting to know this person." But after a month or two, it's no way in hell you're deeply, madly in love with anyone. The only person you're going to be deeply, madly in love with after a day or two is your newborn baby. Other than
Hmm.
that, you're not in love with no one that quick. So that's another, like you said, that's a pink flag. If they're throwing out, "Oh, I love you, I want to be around you 24/7" after the first or second date, like, nah, something's wrong. So you have to be
And
careful.
it's like a lot of contact too. Like I'm just thinking back at things that I thought were really endearing and come to find out they were super abusive. So like constant contact,
The smothering.
smothering,
Right. Like,
smothering, constant contact. You know, you're here like, "Oh my God, he cares so much about my day." You know, like what a good guy. He's asking about every
Mhm.
detail of my day. And then you're finding out, you know, all of a sudden the tone might like turn to like being more like, "Well, what did you do?" or "Where were you?" So it's like it starts with really nice gestures and a nice tone, and then it'll quickly unravel to like this demanding tone of like you're being owned by someone.
right. Like they have, like, it's almost a proprietary interest as opposed to like a loving interest.
Mhm.
Um, I remember my ex-husband who loved bombed me in such a spectacular manner that I didn't know what hit me.
Mhm.
Like, but then I think it was February or March, and we started dating in our first date was in December. So February or March, um, he got the chicken pox, and my son had been to a birthday party, and he came with me to pick my son up. My son's older than you, Liana, and he was like 4. So that's how long ago this was. So he comes down with the chicken pox a couple of days later. My son had had the chicken pox like 2 years before. Your kid gave me chicken pox. No, he didn't. This is what I get. Everybody told me dating a single mother is never a good idea because they have all this baggage. And like he went all the way in on me. But I already, being a mom at 17, already hampered my ability to love myself because I
Mhm.
had so many burdens that my friends didn't. And here I am, and he's like, he's just like going in, and by now he's like feeding on my own insecurities. He's and I should never have let that pass. That
Mhm.
should have been the pink flag that ended that relationship because my kid did not give him chickenpox. He proceeded to give me shit for an entire week every day. And he was like, I can't take anything, so I'm going to use vodka as the cure. And now, being myself as I am now, and looking back at that and thinking, if this was my 21-year-old daughter, the mother of a 4-year-old, going through this with some guy who last month was whining and dining her like it was his job,
Mhm.
I'd be like, okay, little girlie, we're going to have this talk right now.
Mm-hmm.
And explain to her, like, that is a horrifying introduction to narcissistic behavior. And you
Mm-hmm.
need to, like, get yourself out of it. But, what are you going to do at that moment? But it's the biggest, pinkest flag. It's not a
Mm-hmm.
red flag because he wasn't in the room. And I didn't know that he drank every day. He was just drinking to get up. And there was so many but. But it was the biggest, pinkest flag. And it was absolutely horrifying when I look back at it now.
But like when you're telling the story, we're like, oh, ooh, that's horrible. You know what I mean? But when you're living that story, it doesn't feel like that. It just feels like, oh my God, why is he getting so mad at me? What did I do wrong? Like I always internalize everything. So
I totally internalized every single bit of it. I
yeah,
internalized the whole thing. And even when I found out, because we worked together at the time, even though, like, the following Monday, I found out that his boss's 3 kids had chickenpox at the same time.
yeah.
And I'm like,
Look at that.
yeah, look at that. I didn't even say, look at that.
Mm-hmm.
I was kind of like, isn't that funny that that's like such a coincidence? See, it could have been like Jim's 3 kids
Mm-hmm.
instead of mine now, would have been, because it sure as fuck wasn't mine.
Mm-hmm.
But no, you just kind of act like, it also goes back to like the myth of the good girl.
Mm-hmm.
What is the myth of the good girl?
That guys will like you better if you are a good girl.
If
And
you
that's
shut
what
up.
I argue with you about body count. We can't tell our daughters to be good girls, because if we start attaching behaviors to self-esteem, I mean, there are laws, and then there are behaviors, and then there are societal norms, and it's like
Mhm.
boom, boom, boom.
And I agree with that, but you already know
But you're
where I'm going with
not a
this
fan of the
one.
body count.
Yeah, you know me with the ladies' body count. I'm sorry, like I know it's a society thing, and I understand that, but
Because a
I'm,
penis does not have the ability to change anything about a woman.
what happened?
A penis does not have any ability to change anything about a woman.
I don't agree with that.
Right.
I really don't. I believe you mess with the wrong penis and you're definitely messed up. So
No, I
yes,
think it's what
a
it's
penis does have the ability to change it, huh?
I think it's what's attached to it.
No, like if you mess with the wrong, like you could get with a guy that is a horrible person. That's the wrong penis. I'm sorry. You could
Well,
get with a guy that beats on you. You could
it's
get with a guy that beats
So
on
it's
you.
the person. It
Right,
it
it's
is
the
the
person,
person.
but
not
that penis is attached to him. And to me, like me and Barbara always go back and forth with the body count thing because
right, because I get what you're saying, and sometimes people have stayed in bad relationships because they are like what's commonly called either dick dizzy or
uh-huh,
pussy whipped. Um,
right,
we lost the connection. She'll be back.
okay,
And but it's not the actual organ. It's the person attached to it.
right.
And
That's
yeah,
what I'm saying.
I've been in situations where I was woo, so happily dick dizzy. Wow. And knowing that the person was probably not in my best interest, probably not Mr. Right, but Mr. Right about now, I don't give a shit.
Yeah, and I think that's fine. I think that's cool, you know? Like, who cares? Like,
We all have to
sometimes
let
that's what it
out.
is.
But
Yeah,
I just look at it a little different. I look at it like with men and women. I think women were always valued for the for the reasoning of, all right, she's like not easy, where like she's not for everybody. She's not for the street. So I value her because everybody else didn't have her. I don't know how women look at men in that manner, but I know men look at women like a lot of the men I know look at women like, all right, I'm not going to be in my 50s and expect a woman to never have slept with nobody. That would be naive. But I could be in my 50s and say, damn, I hope she didn't sleep with 400 guys. Like it's a value that a woman puts on herself, that she's not for everybody. She's not easily accessed.
so really, it's not necessarily body count per se. It's you want a woman who's discerning about who she has sex with.
Right, yes. But that's a mixture. It's both.
And body count.
It's
Because
both. Because even if you're concerning about who you slept with, like you can't be that concerned if you are like 20 and you already slept with 150 guys.
you know what? I just think attaching a number is
But I
unfair.
would say the
I
same
mean,
thing about a guy. I would say
I
the
mean,
same
I
thing.
was about to say, I think if the standard is that for men, but it just isn't like that for
But
men.
I would say this. I teach my sons, like every woman that you speak to, you don't got to sleep. Everybody doesn't deserve you, and that's the
Hmm.
thing. Like I feel you have to put a value on yourself.
Yeah.
Everyone's not for you. Just because you went out to a dinner or you went to a movie, that don't mean you have to sleep with this person. Everybody isn't for you. Some people could be your friend. Some people could be an associate. You have to value yourself. When you give yourself to everyone, you're not valuing yourself. So why am I valuing you if you have no value for your own self? And that's just how I look at it. And as a woman, you can look at a guy the same way. You'd be like, damn, I don't want a guy that has had every woman that he come across. Like he doesn't value himself either. So that's the same thing. But like I said, that's Wise's opinion. And that's just how I look at it. Now I'm like I said, I'm not going to say, oh, you could never have slept with nobody. That would be insanity. But I feel everyone, man and woman, should value themselves.
Right. Like one of the things, I'm doing the online dating thing, as I mentioned earlier, because, but anyway. And when I see like never married, never had children, and you're late 50s, early 60s, I want to know why.
Right.
Like, are you uncommittable?
But what if you're a guy or
Mhm.
girl or woman that, all right, say you dated someone long term, like in your late 20s, early 30s, and that didn't work out. Now you're in your mid 30s and you're just starting to date again. Some people at that age feel I'm a little too old to have kids now. And then there's some people that just don't want kids. I know people that just don't want kids. I have one of my daughters, she's like, I never want kids. This world is too fucked up. I'm not interested in having kids. I don't want to bring a child into this crazy. world. So I don't feel she's insane or it's a pink or red flag because she don't want kids. That's her choice. Now,
Yeah, I think it's everybody's choice. That's how I
right,
feel. Like you do what you want. If you want to sleep with 500 people, if that's what's making you feel good, then that's what you do. I feel like we all have a choice to say, yes, that's a person I want to be with, a man who slept with like 1,000 women. I mean, we all know a man who slept with like literally 1,000 women. Is that someone that I want to be with? For me, probably not.
right. But that's
Only
that's what
because
I'm saying.
yeah, but like I also don't think it's a problem if like someone else wants to be with them, or it's just like to each his own. Like whatever you want for yourself and the person, your partner, then that's on you. But I also, I think like a lot of it is society though. Like with women, we're supposed to be this, like non-sexual, only sexual with our husband, or like even single woman. I know like I was single for a really long time in my 30s, and I have 2 kids, and I always got shamed by, like, other women and men. Men treated me differently, as if, like, I was kind of worthless because I didn't have a husband. So, like, I would go to my son's, school and, like, his basketball games and stuff like that, and I really couldn't the other moms wouldn't really talk to me, or, like, didn't wanna be friends with me, didn't wanna be around me because they thought that I was, like, after their husband or something, as if, like, me having a husband is, like, all I'm worth. Like, if I have a husband, I'm worth something.
But
But if
that's
I'm a
their
single
insecurity.
mom.
That's
Well,
their
Yeah,
insecurity.
because I
And
can
they probably were jealous. They probably was like, "Oh damn, she looked too good. I'm worried that she's gonna get my man." And that's what that was about. That wasn't that was their insecurity. And you have a lot of people that are very insecure. So like you can't live for them. But
yeah,
my thing is you gotta you gotta live and be good with yourself on whatever level you decide. Like you said, if it's a person that wants to sleep with 100, 200, 300 guys, cool. That's cool. That's good for her. But that wouldn't be my type of person I would approach. But I wouldn't tell a friend of mine like, nah, don't do that, because like if you click, you click. So
right.
well,
everybody has their own thing, huh?
that's one of the things, like when you talk about like like attaching a number, attaching shame to like a higher number
Right.
of sexual partners. Suppose you clicked with that person in every other way, like they were vibing with you on every other level. But yeah, they've been around the block more times than Mr. Softy.
Honestly, I'm always gonna have that in the back of my mind, and I'm always gonna be wondering. And this, like I said, it may be one of my things, but I'm always gonna be wondering, like, damn, where was your self esteem? What was wrong? Why did you have to like give it to everybody? But like I said, I look at guys the same way. So it's not just women. It's just like I said, even myself. I've been around the block, but I've also known, like, I've also been like, hold up, chill. Like, I don't gotta get with everybody I go out with, because you have to have some level of like I'm not for everybody. That's just how I look at it. I'm like, if you're for everybody, that to me that's a problem. You have to find out who's right for you. And I'm also a person, I always like relationships. So I never just wanted to jump around anyway. So but that's me. And like I said, certain things work for other people. So I won't judge them, but I will also say I know I won't deal with that.
Right.
It-
And it's like some of us are a monogamous relation waiting to happen,
right.
and we don't really feel comfortable rolling any other way. Like
Right.
I'm pretty much I'm pretty much faithful even in the most casual relationships.
Oh,
And
okay. Yeah.
been like it's been detrimental a few times, but most of the time I'm kind of like, if I like you enough to sleep with you, why am I gonna date somebody else? What is it gonna get me? Am I gonna find myself like in a double dipping situation? I'm not a taco chip.
And
And
it's also
I
I
think
also
there's, oh,
go
go
ahead.
ahead, go ahead.
yeah,
No, I think there's also like, I mean, just now, I'm in my 30s, and like I said, I was single for a lot of my 30s, like huge portions of my 30s. And what I noticed is that when you are casually dating someone, and let's say like you haven't slept with them yet, but or maybe you have slept with them, and like if they are still casually dating, I would make the mistake of stop dating and only start focusing on them and dating them. But then I realized that they're out there dating everyone because we don't have like a title or whatever. So I would just start casually dating. Like I could have dinner with someone and then the weekend have dinner with someone else and then go to drinks on a Tuesday after work. And like I don't think there's an issue with any of that. And I think that a lot of women learn to operate like that now only because we've been so scorned by giving ourselves to one man and only being with that one man, even when they're not putting a title on it. And then you get fucked in the end. So, like, why not just like go out to drinks with everybody?
no, I remember a few years back, um, a very dear friend of both of us, she decided that although it was counterintuitive at the time, that she was going to start using the roster system. And she did, and it was like it really helped her to get over her fear of not being in a solid long term relationship. She was kind of like, I can always redevelop a roster because,
Yeah.
you know, I've had the roster system. As a matter of fact, when we met, I was still working the roster. And you were like, how many damn texts do you get in one day?
The roster system.
Yeah, that was, yeah, like right now, I don't want a roster. I want to find
Listen,
something that
I
wants to, yeah.
I'm in a like the most healthy relationship I've ever been in my whole entire life. Completely smitten with this guy. And um before him, I kind of just like gave up. Like I was like, you know what? Fuck this. I am happy with myself. I love my fucking dog. My kids are dope. I love my apartment. I do yoga. I make decent money. I have my own shit. And I just was like, I really don't care about anybody. I don't care about dating. I don't care about a relationship. I would go on dates here and there, but like I just was never really clicking with anyone. And I got to that point where it's like, fuck the roster because it gets time consuming.
It does
Like
get time
they're
consuming.
needy. You
But
have
like
to
people,
remember what you're saying to
yeah,
everyone. Yeah. And like then I literally stopped dating. And then I just kind of got back out there cuz I was like, let me try again and we connected and then I really just it's like the healthiest best relationship and I am so happy with him. I am just, like he's met my kids. I bring him around my kids, my dog. I bring him in my house. No men come in my house. So it's like this is a big deal for me. And I mean, I'm happy that I kind of got back out there, but like I said before, I'm at the point in my life where let's say something does go wrong with him. I'm okay with losing anybody right now because it's like I'm happy. So he doesn't make, he brings happiness to me, but he doesn't make or break my happiness.
That was one of the things that I've said in the past is a man can't make me happy, but he can damn sure contribute to my unhappiness.
That's true. That's true. And
Yeah.
it's something we always talk about. Like I always tell Barbara after a breakup or whatever, I think a person should wait a few months, maybe even up to a year. Find yourself, get yourself together, then go out there. Don't bring your trauma and the negative stuff from the last relationship to something new. Make sure you're good, make sure you're stable, then go out and get yourself together and you'll be all right.
Yeah, I completely agree. Completely. You need that time just to figure out who you are again and center yourself. And then if you feel like you want to date someone, go for it. But it's like not going to make or break you. You really need to find happiness within. You got to make yourself happy. You got to keep yourself entertained.
Yeah, and always remember you are the love of your life.
Definitely,
Absolutely.
100%.
Um, Thank you, Leana. This was awesome.
Thank you guys.
Yes, thank you very
Having
much.
you back. You were amazing.
I had such a
And
good time.
we're done for this evening.
It was a joy
Okay.
as always.
7:30, we're back, and we'll announce the topic shortly. Bye, everybody.
All right, have a good one.
Bye.
Bye bye.